Hello and welcome to this quick overview of the new RapidPlan release version 3.4. The latest release is packed with new features, and while in this video we'll only go through some of them, the full list of changes is available when you click on this box in RapidPlan's welcome screen. Before we look at the most significant changes, let's start with a few quick tips that might be handy when you're drawing plans. All text objects now support Ctrl-B and Ctrl-I shortcuts for toggling bold and italic font style. When you hold Ctrl and Alt keys, the object scale handles turn into skew handles, allowing you to create pseudo-perspective views. If you decide you need to extend an existing geometry object, right-click on it, go to Edit Geometry, and select Draw More Points. The object now goes back into regular drawing mode. Okay, so onto the main new feature of RapidPlan version 3.4, drawing along existing geometries. It works similar to control point snapping, except now you can snap anywhere on the geometry of an existing object. Roads, for example, expose their edge geometries as well as lane geometries. Click on the geometry to start snapping, then move mouse in either direction to see the object follow the geometry. When you finish drawing, the object is automatically converted to a minimal Bezier curve with control points you can further adjust if you need to. While drawing an object, you can snap its segments to different geometries too. I'll start drawing a work area along the road edge, and then its other side I'll snap to the lane geometry. Now that the work area has been drawn, its geometry becomes snappable too. I'll draw some cones around it, starting at the road edge, then along the lane marker, then continue along the work area, and then back along the edge. Adding in a work vehicle, a couple of signs, and with just a few clicks I have my simple job site perfectly laid out along a windy road, and again all my objects have a small number of points and are fully editable. To make drawing along geometries even more useful, we've also added a tool for offsetting geometries. Let me start over for clarity and say I want to draw a wire rope fence along the outer edge of the wide sidewalk. The sidewalk geometry is not exposed, so I'll snap the object to the road edge, and then I'll right click on it, go to Edit Geometry, and select Offset Geometry. Now while I'm in offsetting mode, dragging the object doesn't simply move it, but it offsets its whole geometry so I can position it where required. Alternatively, I can specify the exact offset distance, for example 5 meters, and to go in the other direction I'll make the value negative. Hit escape to exit offsetting mode. By the way, drawing along geometries also supports specifying distance values using the dimensions input panel. So to give you an example, I'll snap to the road edge geometry here, and then specify my required distance, first pressing D. I'll do 25 meters, and then you have to click to select the direction of snapping, and as you can see here, this little trick allowed me to easily create a work zone that's exactly 25 meters long. Other than geometry snapping, RapidPlan 3.4 also allows snapping to object bounds while positioning, moving or scaling objects. This makes it very easy to quickly and precisely organize objects next to each other. Bounce edges as well as center lines are snappable, so it also becomes useful when you have to align an object in the middle of another object, for example when creating custom signs. Finally, bounce snapping also works with print regions, making it easy to align objects to page edges, or to make sure there's no gaps between neighboring print regions. One last thing I'll mention with regards to geometries and bounce snapping is how to toggle it on and off. Sometimes when you're zoomed out and you have a complex plan, there's just too many geometries, edges and points to snap to, and they start getting in the way. You can then use the F3 keyboard shortcut to disable snapping, or you can press this toolbar button and then press it again to turn it back on. For finer control, use Control plus F3, or right click the button, and this lets you choose exactly what's snappable and what isn't. So for example, I can disable geometry snapping but still allow snapping to points. The next feature we'll be discussing is advanced object cropping. The most basic cropping method works almost the same as before. Right click on an object and select Edit Crop. Then you select the crop region, hit enter to accept, and the object gets trimmed. In previous versions, if you wanted to adjust the crop, you had to repeat the whole procedure and select a new region. But in RapidPlan 3.4, if you go back to cropping mode, you can edit the existing crop, either by dragging its edges or individual points. You can also create a new region, which can be rectangular like before, or a complex shape composed of multiple points. Once you're done, just hit enter or click the button here to accept. Okay, we'll now take a quick look at some newly added drawing tools that are particularly useful when annotating your TCPs. The cloud shape is dedicated for highlighting plan areas for reviewers, similar to AutoCAD's revision clouds. The number stamper tool is useful for enumerating plan objects as it automatically increments with each copy. You can also edit the value manually using uppercase, lowercase letters, or combinations of both. The text table tool works similar to the grid object, except that you can double click on any cell and add text directly to the table. As you're typing in, rows and columns adjust automatically to fit your text. Font and style can be edited for each cell individually or for multiple selected cells. You select cells by holding Control and Alt keys and clicking on them, or by using the row and column arrows. Double click to select the whole column, or right click for more options. It's a very simple tool for creating notes, tables and similar annotations. The next feature we'll talk about will be useful to customers who often use the batch export dialog to print or export multiple files. In version 3.4, the dialog remembers the last set of plans you've exported, so if you need to do it again after making some adjustments, you can click this button here to restore the whole configuration together with all the export options you had selected. If you're often exporting one or more sets of plans, you can also save a batch export configuration to a file and then load it again when required. Finally, organizing export items on the list now is much easier, as you can just drag them as required. Before we wrap up, I'll mention a feature that's available for our Australian customers in their multi-message signs. Previously, each MMS object would report itself to the manifest as a single entry containing the details of each panel. In RapidPlan 3.4 you can change that by going to MMS properties and editing the manifest entries option. If you set it to panels, each MMS panel will be counted in the manifest separately, and the third option is to also include the frame as a separate item. Once you pick your preferred mode, you can save it as default style, so it's automatically used for all MMS objects. The two regions here are a comparison of the different manifest modes, with the bottom one adding up each panel separately, which might be preferred if you're packing up the panels and only putting them together into multi-messages on site. Okay, so this wraps up our RapidPlan 3.4 tutorial, but as I mentioned earlier, there's more features and changes in this release, so I encourage you to take a look at the changelog page by clicking this box in the Welcome tab. I hope you find RapidPlan even more useful than before, and if you have any questions, comments or suggestions, feel free to contact Invariant's technical support team. Thank you, bye-bye.